So the two big names thus far have been Zach Lavine and now recently Dejounte Murray. Now, either of these guys you can make an argument for. Either of these guys could help and make an impact for the Lakers. These are currently the big names. There's a lot of time between now and the trade deadline, and there are very many potential possible players that could become available as we move closer to the trade deadline. You got a lot of teams that are just a dumpster fire right now that are very likely going to try to tank for the bottom and may look to unload some of their just veteran guys and maybe certain key players that they maybe don't see for the long-term future. There's even potential rumors of Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell. And look, the Lakers, like I say, they're very limited in assets. So it's not so much about like the quality of stars that will become available. It's more so of what is realistic for the Lakers. Now, the Lakers, even if they did get a Zach Lavine or a Dejounte Murray, they're going to need other pieces, right? They need a consistent go-to scorer, somebody that can just be a bucket getter, right? But they also could use another 3-and-D style wing, maybe kind of upgrade at least starting level type guys. You have Cam Reddish, you have Jared Vanderbilt. Both of those guys are excellent defensively, but they're a real big liability on the offensive end. If you can get some more quality two-way players, that would be greatly appreciated, right? And then also a backup center trying to get a center. Well, we got some news in regards to non-star players that I have been just screaming about the last week or so. Just in various live streams. I've touched on them briefly in various videos the last few days. And then we got reports that clearly somebody is watching this channel. But in all seriousness, this is what we got. So Lakers, Nets, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Royce O'Neale among potential trade options. According to The Athletic's Jovan Buha, those pieces could reside in Brooklyn. Buha said that Nets forward Royce O'Neale and Dorian Finney-Smith could be a pair of players that the Lakers look to make a trade for as the deadline inches closer. Maybe you go for Royce O'Neale, Dorian Finney-Smith, Buha said on Hoops Tonight. Those are two guys the Lakers have had interest in dating back to last offseason and even last trade deadline. So I know that those are two guys that would have interest in bringing in. Again, Jovan Buha. Great minds think alike, and I think that these two guys would be excellent selections for the Lakers. I even said in a live stream yesterday in the post-game stream that I would basically give up everything, whatever it took, if we could get something like a Zach Lavine, Andre Drummond, Royce O'Neale, and Dorian Finney-Smith, because at that point, you basically are the best starting five in the league, comparable to Boston. You can make an argument Boston is slightly better, but you are very comparable. Imagine a starting five of Zach Lavine, Royce O'Neale, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. That would be ridiculous. But let's not talk about Zach Lavine and all those other guys. Let's just talk about the two guys that could be mentioned. Now, either of these guys would be a huge impact, right? Either of these guys, I think, would be just upgrades. Dorian Finney-Smith would be the bigger upgrade compared to Royce O'Neale, but Royce O'Neale is no slouch at all. Both of these guys are basically very comparable to a Taurean Prince, if you're not familiar with their games. You can make an argument that both of these, definitely Dorian Finney-Smith is better defensively, but you can make an argument that Royce O'Neale is a definite upgrade. Both guys are still young enough to where they could be pieces for the long term. Right? You look at Royce O'Neale. Royce O'Neale is currently 30 years old, and then Dorian Finney-Smith as well, same age at 30. So these are two guys that you could keep for the long haul. Both guys are on very reasonable deals. Both guys are guys that you could have, like I mentioned, for the foreseeable future. When you look at Dorian Finney-Smith, he currently is making basically $13.5 million, right? And he is under contract through 2025, 2026, where he has a player option. But you're basically looking at $13 million in regards to him. And then as far as Royce O'Neale goes, he's on an even more favorable contract. This year, he is on the final year of a $9.5 million contract, so under $10 million. So you're looking at basically $25 million, let's call it, in tradable salary for both of these guys. And both of these guys would make huge impacts. Talking about two guys that could be excellent 3-and-D guys that would fit seamlessly next to LeBron James, next to Anthony Davis as well. Again, Dorian Finney-Smith would be the bigger price, but Royce O'Neale would be a solid acquisition as well. So this season, you look at, we'll start with Royce O'Neale, because I do think Royce O'Neale would be easier to obtain than a Dorian Finney-Smith. But so far this season for Brooklyn, Royce O'Neale is playing 26 minutes. He is averaging 6.8 field goal attempts per game, and 5.5 of those attempts are all three. So basically, all of his shots are three-pointers. All of them. Right? And he's shooting 39% from three this year. He is a career 38% three-point shooter. The last 3 years, he has shot 39%. So this is a guy who consistently, on 5 attempts per game, is giving you 39% from three-point range. He's averaging 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. So he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. He's averaging a steal and a block per game for Brooklyn. And then, again, you move on over to Dorian Finney-Smith, who, that, to me, Dorian Finney-Smith would be the bigger prize. But I do believe both of these guys could be obtainable. Dorian Finney-Smith, in 29 minutes per game, he is currently shooting 45%. 44.8, if you want to be exact, on 5 attempts per game. And he is taking a total of 8.2 attempts. So again, most of his shots are from three-point range. He's averaging 10.5, 5 rebounds, 1.2 assists, and a steal and a block per game. These are two guys that, again, imagine swapping these two with Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt, and then having Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish coming off the bench, you would be stacked. You got 3 guys in Taurean Prince, Royce O'Neale, and Dorian Finney-Smith that are all capable of shooting 38 to 40% from 3. All 3 of these guys are switchable, can defend. All of them are 6'7 to 6'8. You could literally go with the starting lineup of Taurean Prince, Royce O'Neale, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. You would basically is an upgraded version of the lineup that Darvin Ham is trying to play right now that would actually make sense and fit, and you could have some real shooting. You could run all kinds of different lineups, all kind of different looks, and you wouldn't have to trade much, right? Again, like, you start with Rui. So Rui makes a world of sense for Brooklyn. So Brooklyn has a log jam at basically the small forward position, right? They have, again, Royce O'Neale, Dorian Finney-Smith, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. They got several other guys that they could fit in that spot if need be. One thing that they don't have is a power forward, a sizable, bulkier type of wing in the mold of a Rui Hachimura. Right now, they have Cam Johnson playing that, but again, he's more of a 3, and then when he was out, they had Ben Simmons playing that. So, if you could have a guy in Rui Hachimura, Rui would fit in seamlessly. Rui, I think, would have a huge, out of all the destinations, as a guy that just wants to see Rui succeed, obviously I want the Lakers to win more than anything, but as a guy that's a fan of Rui, I love his game, and I feel like he's being heavily unutilized, right? I think Darvin Ham's done a terrible job of utilizing Rui. If he went to Brooklyn, he would make I think he would be massive. I think he'd be a guy that gives you at least 18 a game, because I think he would just fit in seamlessly. He would get the minutes, he would get the role, he'd get the consistency. You could go, you could go big, have a starting 5 of like Spencer Dinwiddie, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Rui Hachimura, and Nick Claxton. Like, the Nets would be fantastic. I mean, you got 5 guys switchable. You got good size, good strength, good versatility. Rui gets to shine and be a real offensive threat for them. Like, it would make a ton of sense for them. So, I mean, obviously, you got to add in other pieces. So, it's just like, what else would you have to give up, right? But, look, Rui for Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neale would be an excellent start, right? I think, again, because I love Rui. I want Rui on this Laker team long term. The problem is he's never going to get consistency and he's never going to have a real role as long as LeBron James is on this team. And LeBron's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So Rui's always going to be in and out of the lineup. Rui's always going to have these ups and downs. And I want to see him succeed. Lakers are in win now mode, right? And Royce O'Neale and Dorian Finney-Smith just make more sense for the now. So I think you just go and you make the move and you start with the package of Rui. Rui's making $15 million, right? You basically only need you could do Rui and Gabe Vincent, but I don't know if they would want Gabe Vincent. So maybe you're looking to kind of, stack guys or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe you're looking to snag another piece from Brooklyn. Right? Maybe you could work something out. Or maybe you're working on like a 3-team deal, right? Maybe, again, I mentioned it earlier. Maybe you work on a 3-team deal with Chicago and you get Zach Lavine, Royce O'Neale, and Dorian Finney-Smith. You're giving up your first, your pick swap. Because I don't like the idea of giving up a first for Zach Lavine. But if you can get both of these guys in the process also, right? And it's like, instead of Rui going to Chicago, they're getting the first and maybe like a pick swap, right? And then you're sending salaries each way, so that way you could get and make everything work, and then also get Andre Drummond in the deal. I would sell the farm if we could do that, because then at that point, again, like you're literally like 10 guys deep. You have a ton of size, versatility. You got, look, 1 3-point shooter isn't going to save everything, but 3 will. Imagine if you got Zach Lavine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Royce O'Neale, 3 guys that are all capable of shooting 38 to 40% from 3 on top of the Taurean Prince that's doing the same, right? Like, whatever you got to do, right? You do it, right? I would even, and some people might not like this, if we could get these guys and Zach Lavine and everything, I would get rid of Austin Reeves. Because you're not going to, like, how do you close with Reeves now? Your starting 5 and your closing 5 would be Zach Lavine, Royce O'Neale, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. And that would be arguably the best starting 5 in the league, right? And you'd still have other pieces off the bench. You'd still have, buyout market options. You still have all kinds of stuff. Again, if the Lakers really wanted to win now, this is how you do it, right? To where it's like, okay, you send Reeves, you send Rui, you send D'Lo. This is a go all in type move, right? If you were to get everybody, I don't know. Maybe I'll make a video kind of diving into the pros and cons of that independently, because I do think that that's worth a discussion in and of itself. But I like Royce O'Neale, Dorian Finney-Smith are the 2 guys I've been preaching for a while now. And I really hope that this gets done. I hope that, we got this report, because that is a direction the Lakers are trying to push. Even if we just get one of them, like even if you just get Royce O'Neale, right, in his $10 million, then I think that'd be perfect. But I think Brooklyn is really going to want Rui, because Rui makes a ton of sense for Brooklyn. So I think you try to leverage it to where you get a 3-team deal and you just kind of get everybody and you get some like big blockbuster trade. That's my guess. But anyway, again, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.